Worst, I mean absolutely worst birthday ever. Let's review Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare stars Megan Placido, Peter D'Souza Fioni, and is directed by Scott Chambers.
Wow. Who wants to come to Neverland with me?
What's up, guys? Welcome to another brand new 2025 review. The PoohNiverse is in full effect. I just finished watching Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. And look, if you know what you're getting when you go into these movies, you're going to have a good time. That's just all there is to it. And especially if you're a horror fan, you're going to have a good time. I actually was quite surprised by how much I enjoyed Winnie the Pooh 2 Blood and Honey. Is this movie as good as that one? It's close. It's really close. If you would have asked me when I was at about like maybe the hour mark in this movie, I would have said definitely. But fortunately, this movie really picks up in the last act. That's not to take anything away from the first hour of the movie, because that's a good character building part. And don't worry, you still have plenty of blood and carnage in that. But yeah, this is definitely a good human psychology study as well. Just trying to unpack, I guess what they're trying to say with these characters in this movie as it pertains to childhood, adulthood, Neverland, heaven and hell, all kinds of things to break apart. Oh, subscribe to the channel. But anyway, let's give you a quick plot synopsis. Again, if you're following the PoohNiverse, you know that they're taking these fairy tale stories and giving them a horror edge, a hard R horror edge. And Peter Pan, I think, is a perfect subject to do this, because you can definitely play with the themes of that story in general. Peter Pan being a character who never wanted to grow up, So the Peter Pan in this movie, he is kidnapping and or killing children because he wants to get to Neverland. In his deranged mind, he's thinking the more children he collects, the closer he can get. And in the meantime, he sends them to Neverland. Or he promises to send them to Neverland if they are good. It's some demented shit for sure. And I like how they take the characters from that story, and find a place for them within this story. I guess the horror side of things. Now, I have never seen Peter Pan, okay? It skipped by me when I was a child, but I'm aware of the story. I think there are characters by the name of Wendy. I'm not sure if Michael, I think so. Of course, I know that there's a Tinkerbell in there, and there's a Tinkerbell in this one. She doesn't look like the Tinkerbell in the original. She looks like Zelda from Pet Sematary. But you could also separate that story, and if you were changing the names, you could say that this was this serial killer who thinks he's Peter Pan, and he's kidnapping children, and he is just a guy who's completely screwed up. You could look at it from both angles. There is this kidnapping that happens at the beginning of the movie, and then it jumps forward 15 years for a reason, which you'll find out later. And then once you get 15 years later, the main character of the movie is this child by the name of Michael, who could easily play a very young Mick Jagger if he wanted to. If they ever do the Mick Jagger or the Rolling Stones biopic, there's your guy. And it happens to be his birthday, and he has this sister by the name of Wendy, and she's preoccupied with other things, boy troubles, and she ends up losing her brother, Michael. Boy, does that sound familiar. Halloween 4, right? Remember when Rachel, she had, the hots for Brady, and she didn't keep an eye on Jamie, and she ends up losing her at one point in the movie? Yeah, that's what happens in this movie. And by the way, I was drawing direct comparisons to Halloween 4 in that aspect of it. Terrifier, big time in terms of the violence and the zany nature of the killer, right? And you can even compare Wendy to Sienna, for sure. And I mean that in the best way, because we'll get to Wendy. I loved that character. But yeah, that's where my Terrifier comparison comes from. There were even moments with the violence in this movie that reminded me of Rob Zombie's Halloween, down to the music, down to how those death scenes are directed. It just had Rob Zombie's Halloween feel to them. And then there's one scene, which I don't want to spoil because it does happen in the last act, that really reminded me of Friday the 13th Part 4. I guess I just look for these things when I'm watching horror, you know. I love the classics, and I can't help but notice their influence when I'm watching modern slashers, right? I think Scott Chambers, who also was in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, he was the main character of that movie. He directs this movie and does a damn good job, actually. But you could tell he was influenced by a lot of the movies that we horror fans love, you know, from our childhood, which is really cool. Now, Martin Portlock plays Peter Pan. I've never seen him in anything, but he really owns this role, and it feels like he has some stage experience. I think he just takes that approach with this character of Peter Pan, a very seasoned actor who takes the craft very seriously. And I think somebody who has a history in stage acting is perfect for this type of character. He just has the perfect timbre to his voice for this character. He delivers his lines extremely well, menacing even, and he's perfect to play somebody that's just completely fucked in the head. Tinkerbell might be the scariest thing for me in this movie, just visually. Again, she looks very much like Zelda. She's an interesting character too because she's held captive by Peter Pan, and she's torn. Like, sometimes she wants to help him, and then other times she wants to help the victims. And so she's the big question mark, which adds another layer of tension and fun to the movie. But really, this is Peter Pan as a slasher movie. It's played out exactly like a slasher movie. It has the exact same beats. There's a kill, a gnarly kill, at least every probably 15, 20 minutes in the movie. And me as a big slasher fan, I just really dug that. I had a blast with this movie. I think there are some that are not going to like this movie for what it is. It's very simple in nature in its approach, and I appreciate that about it because, again, I'm a massive slasher fanatic. And it does not hold back whatsoever in terms of the violence and the blood. No, you will be bathed in blood by the time you're at the end of this movie. And there's some surprising kills. Of course, you're going to get your predictable knife kills, but there's also some other fun stuff, you know, with like suffocation, impalements, axe wounds, you name it. It's all there, and it's really fun. Now let's talk about Wendy. Megan Placido played her. I loved this character. Very much reminiscent of what Lauren Rivera did with Sienna, but she definitely has her own approach to this type of character. Remember, I was comparing it to like Halloween 4 because her mind's on other things, and I think this is kind of relatable to us. We care for the ones we love, you know, our young siblings and whatnot, but we never expect them to be kidnapped. And when that happens, she goes into full protective mode, and she will stop at nothing to rescue her brother, even giving her own life if need be. And without spoiling anything, I'll just say the final showdown is just knockdown, drag out. You know, throwing everything in the kitchen sink in there, and it's just really fun. So, man, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie. I would say stay with it because it starts off, I don't know if I want to say rough, but it took me like maybe 20 minutes to a half hour to really fully get invested in the characters. But once they grab you, they never let go. And I think the glue of this movie is definitely Peter Pan. Martin Portlock, he owns this. And visually, he looks very interesting too. I was even getting like Sammy Kerr vibes from him just because of the one side of his face is it's not burned, but it looks like it's burned. It's more filleted, I guess. So yeah, I'm going to give this low purchase worthy. Had a really good time with this. I think if these movies keep staying the course like they are, we're going to have ourselves a nice PoohNiverse. So let me know what you guys think of this movie when you get to see it. I think it's a very limited run. It might not be in the theaters anymore. I'm not sure. Hopefully it comes to VOD within the next month or two so you guys can check it out if it's not in theaters. Had a blast with it though. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. On Fridays, Rudy Free for Fridays. Follow me Drumdums on my social. Support me on Patreon. Become a channel member. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, and Drumdum out.